The banquet hall of the royal palace stretched for nearly a mile. Giant crystal pillars rose toward a ceiling painted with the history of the Thandrosian Empire. Thousands of nobles filled the space, their violet skin glowing softly under the light of 3 moons, shining through massive windows. Daniel Harris walked beside his wife, Princess Velira Thandros, and tried not to feel small. It was hard not to feel small. The Thandrosians were giants. The shortest adult in the room stood at least 6.5 feet tall. Most were closer to 7 or 8 feet. They had 4 arms each, bodies built like warriors, and eyes that could see in complete darkness. They were one of the most powerful species in the known galaxy. Daniel was 5'10". He had 2 arms. He could not see in the dark. And according to every scientific classification in the galaxy, humans were a Category 7 species, intelligent enough to be interesting, weak enough to be ignored. 3 months ago, Daniel had married Princess Velira in a ceremony watched by billions across a dozen star systems. It was not a marriage of love. It was not even a marriage of mutual respect. It was politics. Humans controlled several key jump gates that the Thandrosian Empire needed for trade. The Emperor wanted access. Earth wanted protection from hostile species. And so a deal was made. Daniel was chosen because he was calm, he was quiet. He did not cause problems. Human diplomats had studied Thandrosian culture and determined that a loud or aggressive human would cause offense. They needed someone who could fade into the background. Someone harmless. Daniel was very good at being harmless. A noble stepped in front of them, blocking their path. He was massive even by Thandrosian standards, with ritual scars running down all 4 of his arms. He looked down at Daniel with obvious disgust. "Princess," the noble said, "I see you have brought your pet human to the banquet. Does it do tricks? Does it do tricks?" Laughter rippled through the nearby crowd. Daniel kept his face neutral. He had heard worse. In 3 months, he had heard much worse. Velira did not defend him. She simply smiled politely and said, "Lord Ven, how kind of you to notice my husband. I trust your own marriage is going well. I heard your 3rd wife has finally stopped trying to poison you." The noble's face darkened, but he stepped aside. Velira continued walking. Daniel followed. He always followed. Later that night, Daniel stood by the window of their shared chambers and looked out at the alien stars. The sky of Thandros Prime was purple, filled with 2 large moons and 1 small one. Nothing like Earth, nothing like home. He heard Velira enter the room behind him. She had just returned from a private meeting with her father, the Emperor. Her footsteps were heavy. Something was bothering her. "Is everything all right?" Daniel asked. Velira looked at him. In 3 months of marriage, Daniel had learned to read some of her expressions. Right now, she seemed tired. And something else. Worried. "Perhaps it does not concern you," she said. Daniel nodded. He was used to this response. Nothing concerned him. He was the harmless human. The decorative spouse. The symbol of a political alliance and nothing more. He returned his gaze to the window. "The purple moon is beautiful tonight." Velira paused. For a moment, Daniel thought she might actually talk to him. Actually share whatever was troubling her. But then she simply walked to her sleeping chamber and closed the door. Daniel stayed by the window for a long time. He did not sleep well that night. His dreams were strange. He saw Earth, but it was different. Ancient. The land was wild and untouched by human civilization. And the humans he saw were wrong somehow. They moved too fast. They lifted stones that should have been impossible to move. Their eyes glowed with pale golden light. Daniel woke with his heart pounding and his muscles aching like he had been running for hours. He sat in the darkness and tried to slow his breathing. Just a dream, he told himself. Just a strange dream. But the feeling stayed with him, a restlessness deep in his bones, a sense that something inside him was waking up. The next morning, Daniel attended a formal breakfast with the royal family. The emperor sat at the head of the table. an ancient warrior with scars covering most of his visible skin. Valera sat at his right hand. Daniel sat at the far end of the table, as far from the Emperor as protocol would allow. No one spoke to him. No one acknowledged him. He ate quietly and watched. He noticed that the Emperor kept glancing at a noble seated near the middle of the table. The noble was tall and handsome by Thandrosian standards, with perfect violet skin and carefully groomed features. His name was Lord Draven Sorn, and Daniel had learned that he was one of the most powerful nobles in the Empire. Lord Draven caught Daniel watching him. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. His eyes held something cold, something calculating. Daniel looked away. After breakfast, he walked through the palace gardens alone. The plants here were strange and alien, with leaves in colors that did not exist on Earth. He stopped beside a fountain and watched the water dance in patterns he did not understand. "You are the human." Daniel turned. A young Thandrosian servant stood nearby, holding a basket of cut flowers. She was smaller than most Thandrosians, barely 6 feet tall, and she looked at Daniel with open curiosity. "I am," Daniel said. "Is it true that humans cannot see in the dark?" "Yes." "And you only have 2 arms?" Daniel held up his hands. "Only 2. The servant tilted her head. "How do you survive? How does your species not get eaten by predators?" Daniel thought about the question. On Earth, humans had once been prey. They were not the fastest or the strongest. They could not see in the dark. They did not have claws or fangs, but they survived. They survived and eventually conquered their entire planet. They built cities and spaceships. They reached the stars. "We are very stubborn," Daniel said finally. "We do not give up easily." The servant considered this. Then she shrugged and walked away, apparently satisfied with the answer. Daniel watched her go. Then he looked down at his own hands. They were shaking slightly. That strange restlessness was back, humming through his veins like electricity. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. 6 months had passed since the wedding, and Daniel Harris had learned to live as a ghost. He attended every royal function. He walked beside his wife at every ceremony. He smiled at every insult and nodded at every dismissal. The Thandrosian nobles had stopped noticing him entirely. He was furniture. He was decoration. He was nothing. But something inside Daniel was changing. The dreams came every night now, always the same. Ancient humans with glowing eyes and impossible strength. They ran through forests that no longer existed. They hunted animals that had been extinct for millions of years. And sometimes, in the dreams, they looked directly at Daniel. They looked at him like they were waiting for something. He woke every morning with his body aching. His senses were sharper than they should be. He could hear conversations from rooms away. He could smell things he should not be able to smell. And sometimes, just for a moment, the world seemed to slow down around him. Daniel told no one. What would he say? That he was having strange dreams? That his body felt wrong? The Thandrosians already thought humans were weak and strange. He did not need to give them more reasons to look down on him. Commander Lisa Grant arrived at the palace on a routine diplomatic visit. She was the human liaison who had helped arrange the marriage. A practical woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes. Daniel met her in one of the smaller reception rooms, away from Thandrosian ears. "You look different," Lisa said, studying him carefully. "Are you sleeping well?" Daniel hesitated. "I have been having strange dreams." "Strange how?" He tried to explain. The ancient humans, the glowing eyes, the feeling of power coiled inside him like a sleeping animal. Lisa listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Have you told anyone else about this?" "No." "Good. Keep it that way." She leaned forward. "Daniel, I do not know what is happening to you, but humans in this part of the galaxy need to be seen as harmless. If the Thandrosians think we are hiding something, this alliance could fall apart." Daniel nodded. He understood. He was still the harmless human. He still needed to be invisible. But it was getting harder. That evening, the Emperor held a public ceremony in the great plaza outside the palace. Thousands of Thandrosians gathered to watch the royal family accept tribute from conquered worlds. Daniel stood at the edge of the platform, far from the center of attention. He noticed Lord Draven Sorn watching him again. The noble had been watching him more and more lately. Every time Daniel looked up, Draven's cold eyes were there. Calculating. Planning. Daniel did not know what Draven wanted. But he knew it was nothing good. The ceremony continued. The Emperor accepted gifts from alien ambassadors. Valera stood beside her father, tall and proud in ceremonial armor. She had barely spoken to Daniel in weeks. Their marriage existed only in public. In private, they were strangers. Daniel felt the crowd shift. Something was wrong. His new senses screamed at him even before he understood why. A figure in dark robes pushed through the crowd. Daniel saw the weapon in the figure's hand before anyone else did. A small energy pistol. Aimed directly at the Emperor. Time seemed to slow. Daniel moved without thinking. His body acted before his mind could catch up. He crossed 10 feet of space in less than a second. He shoved a Thandrosian guard aside like the massive warrior weighed nothing. He grabbed Valera and pulled her down, covering her body with his own. The energy blast screamed past them. It hit a pillar and exploded in a shower of crystal fragments. Chaos erupted. Guards rushed the assassin. The crowd scattered in panic. The Emperor was surrounded by a wall of armed warriors. Daniel stayed on the ground, his body pressed over Valera, his heart pounding like a drum. He could feel her beneath him, frozen in shock. He could feel the heat of the energy blast still burning in the air. Slowly, he lifted himself up. His hands were shaking. His whole body was shaking. Valera stared at him. Her eyes were wide. Her mouth was open. "How did you do that?" she whispered. Daniel could not answer. He did not know. One moment he had been standing at the edge of the platform. The next moment he was on top of her. Faster than any human should be able to move. Faster than any Thandrosian. He stood up on trembling legs. All around them, chaos continued. Guards dragged the assassin away. Nobles screamed and pushed toward the exits. The Emperor was shouting orders, but Valera did not move. She stayed on the ground, staring up at her human husband with an expression he had never seen before. Not disgust, not dismissal, fear, and something else. Curiosity. Later that night, Daniel sat alone in his chambers. His hands had finally stopped shaking, but the energy still hummed through his veins. He felt strong, stronger than he had ever felt in his life, and it terrified him. The door opened. Valera entered. She stood across the room from him, her forearms crossed over her chest. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "The assassin escaped," she finally said. "The guards caught only a hired servant. The real person behind the attack is still free." Daniel nodded. He was not surprised. "I believe it was Lord Draven Sorn," Valera continued. "My father has suspected him of treason for months. But we have no proof." "Why are you telling me this?" Valera was quiet for a moment. Then she walked closer. She stopped a few feet away and looked down at him. "Because you saved my life today. And because I saw how you moved." Her voice dropped lower. "No human should be able to move like that. No human should be that fast." "What are you, Daniel Harris?" Daniel met her eyes. "I do not know." It was the truth. He did not know what he was becoming. He did not know why his body was changing or what the dreams meant. He only knew that something ancient and powerful was waking inside him, and he was not sure he could control it. Valera studied him for a long time. Then she turned and walked to the door. She paused with her hand on the frame. "I have spent 6 months ignoring you," she said quietly. "I have treated you like furniture, like a political tool." She did not look back at him. Perhaps that was a mistake. She left without another word. Daniel sat in the darkness and listened to his own heartbeat. It was steady now. Strong. Too strong. Whatever he was becoming, he could not hide it much longer. And when the truth came out, everything would change. Valera spent the next 2 weeks investigating her husband. She pulled every record the Empire had on humans. She read scientific studies, biological analyses, and military assessments. Every document said the same thing. Humans were Category 7. Intelligent but physically weak. No psychic abilities. No genetic enhancements. No special powers of any kind. There was nothing in the records that could explain what she had seen. Daniel had crossed 10 feet in less than a heartbeat. He had shoved aside a Thandrosian guard, who weighed 3 times as much as him. He had moved faster than her eyes could follow, and Thandrosian eyes were designed to track prey at high speeds. It was impossible, and yet she had seen it. She tried to discuss it with her father, but the Emperor was distracted. Lord Draven Sorn had been making moves in the Noble Council. He was gathering allies, spreading rumors, building power. The failed assassination had not stopped him. If anything, it had made him bolder. Velira was on her own. Meanwhile, Daniel was getting worse. He could not sleep anymore. Every time he closed his eyes, the dreams pulled him under. The ancient humans were clearer now. He could see their faces. He could hear their voices. They spoke a language that had not been used in millions of years, but somehow Daniel understood every word. They called themselves the First Children. They said they had been created by beings who came before all known civilizations. They said their power had been locked away, hidden in their blood, waiting for the right moment to awaken. And they said that moment was now. Daniel woke from one of these dreams to find his bedroom wall cracked. He had punched it in his sleep. The stone was 2 feet thick, reinforced with Thandrosian metal, and his fist had gone straight through it. He stared at his hand. There was no damage, not even a scratch. That morning, he went to the palace archives. The Thandrosians had conquered hundreds of worlds over thousands of years. They had collected knowledge from every corner of the galaxy. If anyone had records of what was happening to him, it would be here. The archive keeper was an ancient Thandrosian named Scholar Veth. She was small and bent with age, but her eyes were sharp. She looked at Daniel with surprise when he entered. "The human," she said. "I did not expect to see you here." "I am looking for information," Daniel said. "About the precursors." Scholar Veth went very still. "That is a dangerous subject, little human. The precursors are forbidden knowledge in many parts of the galaxy." "Why?" The old woman studied him for a long moment. Then she gestured for him to follow her deeper into the archives. They walked through rows of ancient books and glowing data crystals. The deeper they went, the older the knowledge became. Some of the texts were millions of years old, preserved by technology that no living species understood. Finally, Scholar Veth stopped before a sealed vault. She pressed her hand against the lock, and the door slid open. "The precursors existed before any known civilization," she said quietly. "They were old when the first stars were young, and they were very, very powerful." She pulled out an ancient text, its pages made of some material that was neither paper nor metal. "This is one of the few surviving records of their work. Most species destroyed these texts out of fear." Daniel took the book carefully. The language was strange, but as he looked at the words, they seemed to shift and rearrange themselves. Within moments, he could read them perfectly. That should have been impossible. But Daniel was learning that impossible did not mean what it used to mean. The text described the precursors as creators. They had traveled the galaxy millions of years ago, finding primitive species on young worlds. They had taken genetic samples. They had experimented. They had tried to create the perfect soldiers, beings who could survive anything and fight any enemy. Most experiments failed. The enhanced species either died out or were destroyed by frightened neighbors. But some experiments were different. Some were designed to stay hidden. The precursors had locked their enhancements deep in the genetic code, invisible to any scan, dormant until triggered by specific conditions. These sleeper species looked normal. They acted normal. They could live for millions of years without ever knowing what they truly were, until something woke them up. Daniel's hands trembled as he read. The text did not name specific species. It did not say which worlds the precursors had visited. But he already knew. Earth. They had visited Earth. Humans were not Category 7. Humans were something else entirely. something ancient, something powerful, something that had been sleeping for millions of years, and Daniel was waking up. He returned to his chambers in a daze. His mind was spinning. Everything he thought he knew about his own species was wrong. Humans were not weak. They were weapons, weapons designed by beings who had died before the Thandrosian Empire was born. He needed to tell Valera. He needed to warn her about what he was becoming. But when he reached their shared chambers, she was not there. Instead, he found a message waiting for him. It was from Commander Lisa Grant. She had been called back to Earth unexpectedly, but before she left, she had learned something important. Lord Draven Sorn was planning to move against the Emperor within the next few days. He had gathered enough support in the Noble Council to challenge the throne directly. And there was more. Draven knew about Daniel. He knew that something strange was happening to the human. And he planned to use it. If Daniel's transformation became public, Draven would claim that humans were a threat. He would demand that the alliance be cancelled. He would use fear of humanity to rally support against the Emperor, who had allowed a human into the royal family. Daniel crumpled the message in his fist. The paper turned to dust under pressure he could not control. He stood alone in the darkness, feeling the ancient power surge through his blood. He did not want to be a weapon. He did not want to be a threat. He had spent his whole life being quiet, and harmless, and invisible. But that was not a choice anymore. The door burst open. Armed soldiers poured into the room. They wore the colors of Lord Draven Sorn. Daniel turned to face them. The leader of the soldiers pointed a weapon at his chest. "By order of Lord Draven Sorn," the soldier said, "you are under arrest for conspiracy against the Empire. Come quietly, human, and you may live through the night." Daniel looked at the soldiers. There were 20 of them. They were all trained warriors, all armed with weapons that could punch through starship armor. And for the first time in his life, Daniel Harris was not afraid of them at all. He smiled. "I do not think I will come quietly." The first soldier fired his weapon at Daniel's chest. Daniel was not there anymore. He moved without thinking, without planning, without fear. His body twisted sideways faster than the energy blast could travel. He closed the distance to the soldier in half a heartbeat and grabbed the weapon from his hands. The metal crumpled like wet paper in Daniel's grip. The soldier stared at his empty hands. Then he looked at Daniel's face. What he saw there made him step backward. Daniel's eyes were glowing. Pale golden light poured from them like tiny suns. His skin seemed to shimmer with energy just beneath the surface. He did not look human anymore. He looked like something older, something dangerous. The other soldiers opened fire. Energy blasts filled the room like a storm of lightning. Daniel moved through them like water flowing around stones. He did not get hit. He could not get hit. His body knew where every blast would be before it arrived. He disarmed the soldiers one by one. He did not kill them. Some part of him, the part that was still Daniel Harris from Earth, refused to take lives, unless there was no other choice. But he broke their weapons. He shattered their armor. He left them unconscious on the floor. In less than 30 seconds, 20 trained Thandrosian warriors lay defeated at his feet. Daniel stood in the center of the room, breathing hard. Not from exhaustion. He was not tired at all. He was breathing hard because he was trying to control the power raging through his body. It wanted more. It wanted to fight. It wanted to destroy. He forced it down. He was not a weapon. He was not a monster. He was Daniel Harris. And he was still in control. Alarms were ringing throughout the palace now. Daniel could hear fighting in the distance. Screams, explosions. Lord Draven Sorn had made his move. The coup was happening right now. Daniel ran. The palace was a maze of corridors and chambers. But Daniel's enhanced senses guided him. He could smell Valera's perfume from 3 levels away. He could hear her voice shouting orders. She was alive. She was fighting. He found her in the throne room. The scene was chaos. The Emperor's guards had formed a protective circle around the royal family, but they were outnumbered. Draven's forces attacked from all sides. Bodies lay everywhere. The floor was slick with violet blood. Valera fought like a demon. Her forearms wielded traditional Thandrosian blades with deadly grace. She cut down enemy after enemy, her ceremonial dress torn and stained with blood. But there were too many. Even as Daniel watched, an enemy blade sliced across her arm. She stumbled. Daniel crossed the throne room in 3 steps. He caught the blade that would have killed Valera. He caught it with his bare hand. The metal, designed to cut through starship hulls, stopped cold against his palm. The soldier holding the blade stared at him in shock. Daniel ripped the weapon away and threw the soldier across the room. The man hit the far wall and did not get up. Valera looked at her husband. Her eyes went wide. "Daniel? Stay behind me," he said. His voice sounded different. Deeper. Resonant with power he did not fully understand. More soldiers charged. Daniel met them head-on. He moved through the enemy like a storm through grass. Every punch shattered armor. Every kick sent warriors flying. He did not use weapons. He did not need them. His body was the weapon now. Lord Draven Sorn watched from the far end of the throne room. His handsome face twisted with disbelief. This was not possible. Humans were weak. Humans were Category 7. Humans were harmless. But the thing cutting through his soldiers was not harmless. Daniel fought his way toward the Emperor. The old warrior was wounded but alive, held upright by 2 of his remaining guards. Daniel stood before them and faced the oncoming enemy. "What are you?" the Emperor whispered. Daniel did not answer. He did not have time. A fresh wave of soldiers poured through the doors. He met them with fists and fury. Time lost all meaning. There was only the fight. Only the endless flow of enemies and the ancient power singing through his blood. Finally, the flow of soldiers stopped. Lord Draven Sorn stood alone at the entrance to the throne room. His allies had fled or fallen. His army was broken. He looked at the destruction around him, at the unconscious bodies of his best warriors, at the human who had defeated them all. "What are you?" Draven demanded. His voice cracked with fear. Daniel walked toward him slowly. The golden light in his eyes had not faded. If anything, it burned brighter. "I am human," Daniel said. "And you made a mistake." Draven drew his own sword. It was a ceremonial blade, ancient and powerful, passed down through his family for generations. He swung it at Daniel's head with all his strength. Daniel caught the blade between 2 fingers. He held it there for a moment, letting Draven strain against an impossible grip. Then, he squeezed. The ancient metal shattered into 1,000 pieces. Draven fell to his knees. The arrogance was gone from his face. The cruelty was gone. All that remained was terror. "Humans are not weak," Daniel said quietly. "We were never weak. We were patient. We were waiting." He leaned down until his glowing eyes were inches from Draven's face. "And now we are awake." He wanted to kill Draven. The ancient power inside him demanded it. This creature had threatened Valera, had tried to murder the Emperor, had planned to destroy the alliance between their peoples. But Daniel Harris was still in control. He straightened up. "Guards," he called out. "Take this traitor to the cells. The Emperor will decide his fate." The surviving guards rushed forward to seize Draven. The nobleman did not resist. He seemed broken, unable to understand what had happened. Daniel turned back toward Valera and the Emperor. The golden light in his eyes finally began to fade. The power that had surged through him started to settle, coiling back down into whatever deep place it came from. And then his legs gave out. The awakening had drained everything he had. His body, pushed far beyond human limits, finally demanded payment. Daniel collapsed. Valera caught him before he hit the ground. He looked up at her face, blurry through his exhausted vision. She was crying. He had never seen her cry before. He did not even know Thandrosians could cry. "Hold on," she said. Her voice was desperate. "Just hold on, Daniel. Help is coming." He wanted to tell her that he was fine, that he just needed rest. But the darkness was pulling him down, and he did not have the strength to fight it. The last thing he saw before unconsciousness took him was Valera's face. She was looking at him like she had never really seen him before. Maybe she had not. Maybe none of them had, but they saw him now. The soldiers attacked, and the blood of the first children finally woke completely. Something was changing inside him. He did not know what it was. He did not know why it was happening, but deep in his bones, in a place he could not name, Daniel Harris felt like he was waking up from a very long sleep, and he was not sure if he should be excited or afraid. Daniel woke in a soft bed, surrounded by strange machines. He blinked at the ceiling for a long moment, trying to remember where he was. His body felt heavy and weak. The power that had surged through him was quiet now. Coiled somewhere deep inside, sleeping again. A door opened. Valera walked in. She looked different than he remembered. The proud, distant princess was gone. In her place was someone tired and worried and somehow softer. She moved to his bedside and sat down in a chair that was far too small for her. "You have been unconscious for 6 days," she said quietly. "Our doctors did not know how to treat you. Human physiology is not well studied here. We had to bring in specialists from 3 different worlds." Daniel tried to sit up. His arms trembled with the effort. "The Emperor? The palace? My father is recovering. The coup failed. Lord Draven Sorn and his allies are imprisoned, awaiting trial." Valera paused. "You saved us. Daniel. You saved all of us." Daniel let his head fall back against the pillow. "I did not know I could do any of that. I still do not fully understand what happened. I would home so. I would once untrue, and has morning ADO. Neither do we." They sat in silence for a moment. Daniel could hear his own heartbeat, slow and steady. He could hear Valera's heartbeat too, faster than his. Nervous. "The council is afraid," Valera said finally. "Word has spread about what you did. A single human defeated 40 trained Thandrosian warriors without killing any of them. The noble houses are demanding answers. Some are calling you a threat, some are calling you a weapon that Earth has been hiding." Daniel closed his eyes. He had expected this. "What does your father say?" "My father says that you saved his life and the lives of his family. He says that anyone who speaks against you speaks against the throne." She leaned forward. "But there are limits to what even the Emperor can do. Fear is powerful, Daniel, and right now, many people are very afraid. Of me. Of all humans. If one of you can do what you did, what might others be capable of?" Daniel thought about this. He thought about the ancient text in the archives, the precursors, the sleeper species, the power hidden in human blood for millions of years. "I do not know," he admitted. "I do not know if I am the only one. I do not know if this will happen to other humans. I do not even know if I can do it again. He looked at Valera. "I am sorry. I did not ask for this. I did not want to cause problems. You caused problems by saving my life? I caused problems by being something no one expected." Valera was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached out and took his hand. Her grip was gentle, careful, as if she was afraid of breaking him. "I have been thinking," she said, "about the last 6 months. About how I treated you. About what I assumed you were." She met his eyes. "I thought you were harmless. I thought you were weak. I was wrong. I was harmless," Daniel said. "I was weak, until I was not." "No," Valera shook her head. "You were never weak. I was just too blind to see it. Strength is not only about muscles and weapons. It is about patience, endurance, the willingness to stand alone in a place where everyone looks down on you and still keep your dignity." She squeezed his hand. "You had that strength from the beginning. The power that woke inside you. That was just something extra." Daniel did not know what to say. No one had ever talked to him like this. Not on Earth. Not anywhere. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now you rest. You heal." Valera stood up, but did not let go of his hand. "And then, if you are willing, we try something new." "Something new?" "A real marriage. Not a political arrangement. Not a princess and her decorative human. 2 people, learning to understand each other." She smiled. Just a little. It will not be easy. My people will be watching. Your people will be watching. Half the galaxy will probably be watching. And you want to do this anyway? I want to try. Her smile faded into something more serious. You risked everything for me, Daniel. You almost died for me. The least I can do is try to be a real partner to you. Daniel looked at her for a long moment. Then he squeezed her hand back. Okay, he said. Let us try. 2 weeks later, Daniel walked through the palace gardens with Valera at his side. He was still weak. The doctors said it would take months for his body to fully recover from the awakening. But he could walk now. And the strange power inside him remained quiet. He could feel it there, waiting, but it did not demand anything. It was patient, just like he was. Nobles and servants watched them pass. No one whispered about the harmless human anymore. No one made jokes about pets or tricks. They watched with curiosity, with respect, and yes, with a little fear. Daniel did not mind the fear. Fear could become understanding, with time. Commander Lisa Grant had returned from Earth with a team of human scientists. They wanted to study Daniel, to understand what had happened to him. But they also brought news. Other humans were reporting strange dreams, strange feelings. Whatever had awakened in Daniel might be awakening in others. The galaxy was about to change. What are you thinking? Valera asked. Daniel looked up at the purple sky, at the 3 moons hanging overhead like silent witnesses. I am thinking about the future. About what humans might become. Are you worried? A little. Power is dangerous. If other humans awaken like I did, there will be fear. There will be conflict. He paused. But there will also be possibility. Humans have always been survivors. Now we might be something more. Valera slipped her hand into his. It was a simple gesture, but it meant everything. On Thandros Prime, holding hands was a declaration, a statement. It meant you belonged together. Whatever comes, she said, you will not face it alone. Daniel smiled. 6 months ago, he had been a political token, a symbol. A harmless human in a galaxy that did not take his species seriously. Now he was something else. Something ancient and powerful and new. He did not know exactly what the future held. He did not know how the galaxy would react when more humans began to awaken. He did not know if the power inside him was a gift or a curse, but he knew one thing for certain. He was not harmless anymore, and he never would be again. He walked through the gardens with his wife, under alien moons, on a world that was slowly becoming home. Behind them, the palace rose against the purple sky. Ahead of them, the unknown future waited. Daniel Harris, the first of the awakened, was ready to face it.